Hi, it's me again, here to cause trouble as per usual. But I always have something to say. So, basically, I'm here to talk about this whole situation that's coming on Twitter once again with the Slumflower. Because in my video that I did last year, back in August, about the Slumflower, she's a social media activist, she's an influencer, she's released a book called What Time to Be Alive. I mean, I'm not a hater, so I will post a link down below, even though I've actually blocked her on social media because some of her takes on certain issues I don't agree with. And this new one that she's done, she's basically spoken about, she lives alone, she has an apartment, and she's saying that she feels all young people should live alone so that they can know what it's like to find themselves without basically the distraction of other people. This take is essentially, she lives in London, right, and she's an influencer, she's released her book, so she's making money, she can afford to live in a nice fancy apartment. Now, just like other influencers who start getting a little bit of money, their head starts to change. They seem to forget that now they have a place of privilege where they are able to say these things. But are you not thinking about the realism of people who cannot afford? Majority of young people just coming out university, just coming out of university, or on 0 hours contracts. A person on a 0 hours contract cannot afford, to live on their own. A lot of people are still living at home. Even people in their 30s are moving back home. Like, what does that tell you about the economy today? But you want to sit on the internet and say that young people need to learn to live alone. Like, not every day make yourself look like a fool. Like, when you come from a place of privilege, you turn off a lot of people because not everybody is able to relate to your experience. Like, how do you 1 minute talk about, the standard of living is disgraceful, and then as soon as you get a bit of change in your bank account, then you will just want to completely switch and say that everyone basically needs to get on my level and all young people need to live alone. Like, a lot of young people can't even afford to live alone. Even here in the West Midlands, a lot of young people can't afford to live alone, and the West Midlands is a lot cheaper than London. So if they can't afford to live alone, you most certainly cannot in London for the majority of people. I think what she needed to do is direct her comments at a certain demographic, because she knows that the majority of people living in London can't afford to live alone. There are so many people, they're working in banks, they have these good jobs, but they're still living alone. And if you're like working in a bank, you're making a lot of money, but you're still living at home, what does that say really? That you have these good jobs and you still can't afford to live alone. A person who's just come out of university is still going to be living at home with their parents most likely after they've left. Because if you're keeping it real, they're like, a lot of them come out of university and they look for jobs and they realize that the job market is very difficult, even though the statistics say here in the UK that unemployment is going down and more people are getting jobs. The reason more people are getting jobs is because 0 hours contracts. These agencies are creating these 0 hours contracts, or sometimes not even an agency. McDonald's is notorious for 0 hours contracts. Some people say they prefer it. However, if you want to be able to save, and if you want to be able to, afford your own place one day, a 0 hours contract is not going to allow you to do that. You get paid like what? Sometimes £7 an hour. And you may only do one shift a month. You can call them every day, but they say, we don't need you, we don't need you, we don't need you, we don't need you. Like, constantly telling you that. And that's been my experience on a 0 hours contract. Like, sometimes you call them every day and they don't have the availability because they got all the people they need for the day. So you call back the next day and you think, yeah, okay. So maybe the next day will be different, and the truth is it's not. So 0 hours contracts, they're good for temporary thing. Like, if you just want to get your job experience up, they're really good for that. But as far as long-term consistency and sustainability, they're not great. But I will have to say that I do agree with some of the Slumflower's points in regards to, you do need time alone to learn who you are as an individual. However, sometimes the only way you grow is with other people. And this is why you have to be very careful with what you say, because one person may find themselves growing better as an individual, like by themselves. Other people tend to grow better with the influence of other people. So, you know, like, be mindful of what you say, because sometimes you come off a little bit arrogant and above it all, because you are in a place of privilege, and you need to admit that to yourself. So at the end of the day, like, girl, what you doing? Like, Russell, what you doing? Like, come on now, have some sense. Remember, you was in the same position as those young people. In fact, you're still a young person, so like, have a bit of realism. Yeah, have a bit of realism. If people in their 30s are having to move back home because they can't afford to live by themselves, what's the chance that a young person in the early 20s is going to be able to live by themselves in no matter what the city is? Because the majority of them still live at home. Even here in Birmingham, I've seen it plenty of times. So like, yeah. So yes, twice. That's my take on Shadira, or the Slumflower idea that young people should live alone. She has some points somehow, but you know, the realism of a lot of young people being able to follow through with that is actually highly unlikely. So, you know, don't come from a place of privilege, come from a place of acknowledging the fact that socioeconomic factors are the reason why a lot of people are not able to do what you do. So, you know, just use a little bit of common sense. Like, if you see the statistics, if you see what's going on in the country today, you see neoliberalism and all this kind of stuff, you see all of that, and then you want to say that all young people should be living alone. Like, girl, yeah, okay. Anyway, I should be back for another YouTube video in 2 seconds.